The Vincent Kompany era at Burnley is all but over. As we record this podcast on Thursday evening, talks are continuing between Burnley and Bayern Munich over compensation for the former Manchester City captain. But after 3 days of intense media coverage, accompanied by radio silence from the club and Kompany himself, Burnley fans are now resigned to losing the man who delivered such a thrilling and successful charge to the Championship title and then such a baffling and miserable relegation campaign. While the media will focus on what this means for Vincent Kompany and Bayern Munich, our focus here is, of course, solely on what this means for Burnley Football Club. How much of a mess has Kompany left the club in? Or could there be a silver lining to all of this? And who is now the right man to step in this summer and take charge of the team? We'll discuss all that and more on this week's episode of From the Be-All End. Welcome then to From the Be-All End. I'm Simon Evans, and with me is a full pod squad of Andrew Greaves, Chris Bowden, Justin Connolly, Paul Woodhouse, and we have a special guest today with us, Liam Vizzy, YouTube personality and well-known Claret's content creator, who's joining us from his base. And hello, Liam. Welcome to the podcast.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Right, let's get into this. Obviously, there's only one topic on the agenda, Vincent Kompany and everything that's gone on this week. We did do a YouTube special live about that went out as a podcast, of course, during the week. But Chris, you weren't able to make that, so we haven't had your thoughts on this and what's developed over the last couple of days, where we were still in that space then talking about, there's a bit of conjecture here, there's a bit of uncertainty, but now it looks like it's all done by the ink on the paper. How do you feel about all this now?
Yeah, it's a bit differing feelings really. I think I'd say that. I mean, the obvious feeling is that obviously, if Bayern Munich come calling, you don't turn them down, and then but on the other hand, you're sort of looking at the season we've had, and the way that the recruitment's been geared towards Vincent and what he wants. Year 2 of a 5-year project. It's I think any other manager or any other club would have they've parted ways during the season we've had. It's been Burnley's worst ever season in terms of points. Worst ever season in terms of win ratio, but we like Brian Jensen said after about 4 games, believe the process. Burnley fans by and large have sort of backed the project. We've had a setback this season, as the club are so keen to sort of say we go again, and for it then to sort of be ripped up and us left with a squad that's been designed and created by Vincent for Vincent. They're not players that we've had in the likes of Cork, Taylor, etc. We expect J-Rob probably to go. Cork, Goodman, players signed by other managers. They're not going to be about. These are Vincent's players with Vincent's structure in mind, Vincent's playing style, and I've not a clue who can come in and get the best out of them. But yeah, the most beautiful girl in town has been lured away by that German fella that she met on holiday with the nice Audi and the posh Adidas gear and more money, and it's just proved too much to turn down.
Yeah. Liam, how have you sort of processed all this? Because it has been pretty mad as well online with just like, we suddenly discovered all these German journalists over the last few days and all their tweets and so on. But how does it leave you feeling about the state of the club?
I mean, I echo the same feelings as Chris there. And it's hard to almost not... Like, I want to feel angry. I want to feel like I've been lied to and that we've all been caught with our pants down. Anyone like myself and a large chunk of the fan base have been backing Kompany despite everything that's gone through the entire campaign. Many mistakes has been made that Kompany and the board will all agree to. Many clubs would have cut loose months ago, and we all stuck by with him, with the idea, with the concept that this is a project, and at Burnley, we give our managers a chance. We believe and we are loyal to them. We are, even before Pace, that of course we stuck with Sean Dyche. We stuck loyal to him, and we got the returns. We deserved the fruits of that labor. So I want to be angry by him leaving, but at the end of the day, it's Bayern Munich. And I'm more surprised by Bayern Munich wanting him than anything else here. I can't have a go at Pace or the board for this situation because I don't think they would have ever foreseen this ever happening. Not only by a club being big enough for Bayern Munich to come and get Kompany, but most importantly, pay the money. We're reaching out and we're holding out for £20 million, I believe. Now, it could go down to 15 or 16 million. I believe there's a negotiation process right now that's kind of delaying it, but I can't begrudge Kompany for wanting to go. So, this is a project, and it turns out that it's just not meant to be. And if he does go, I do wish him the very best. I've seen a few fans feel a bit, cheated on the last couple of hours and the last 24 hours or so. And it's an emotional time, and I get that. However, we got to remember where he was before Kompany was here. The entire, situation that we were in, there was no reason to guarantee that after going down, after nearly a decade under Sean Dyche, that we were able to bounce back with a brand new brand of football, brand new players, brand new everything, complete reset, and then win the league in a record points total, the most points ever in Burnley's history with the 3 points. So I thank him for what he's done for us. I wish it would have ended in a better light. But at the end of the day, it's Bayern Munich, and I absolutely wish him the best.
Yeah, how do you feel, Greaves? Have you got to that stage as well, or is there still something inside that doesn't sit well about this?
Well, I've been thinking about this, and does it ever end well? How does it end well? You know what I mean? It's kind of there's never a perfect time, is there? You know what I mean? It's you retire, dear. So you retire like Fergie and leave a massive shitstorm that countless world-class managers have been trying to mop up since Fergie left. So you kind of go at that point, you kind of go, oh, it's lovely because, cuddly Fergie's going to move upstairs. But then you have 10 years, 12 years of struggle. It's not ideal, right? Let's not beat about the bush. It's not ideal timing-wise. We've had a dog shit season, as I keep describing it as. But as Liam says, that I'm thinking more about them feelings we had during that championship season. How depressed we were at getting relegated and the unknown, and even the most optimistic of us were kind of going, Kompany's got half a chance, but the club we're talking about, look, there's no rush. It's a 5-year project or a 3-year project, and then he delivered this season. I'm looking on my desk and I see my ticket from the Burnley Rovers home game. And I was ill for 2 days after that game because I was just, and it was the great, honestly, I still now get goosebumps because I was in line with Barnes's header. When Zaroury whips that cross in, I could feel the blood in my ears. You know what I mean? It's one of them. It's the greatest sound I've ever heard was when that crowd, that millisecond before the crowd reacts to the ball. I guess it's science in terms of vision and sound. That is the greatest moment, and I can hear my wife kind of pottering about in another room of my life. And I'm going to get
steady on.
She's going to say it's wedding day, which
I'm sure she's
that comes after Wednesday as well. And she's a Rovers fan, so but it is. What? I mean that day. Yeah, I know. but that day, you know what I mean? And it's not ideal. Of course, it's not ideal. And I was lucky enough to meet Vince recently, and I saw the hard work that he was putting in to try and get us up. So my initial anger of kind of, he sacrificed us for his CV and all this, I don't think he did. I think it was utter belief that that plan would work. And I do sit here now thinking that if he hadn't gone to Bayern Munich, and we're kind of saying that he has, even though it's not been sorted, I think we'd have stormed the league next season, and I think we'd have survived comfortably next season in the Premier League. But then where does it go? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, does that match his ambitions? You get a guy who's only ever known success, only ever known the very top of the game, and he will be sat there as soon as that season ended, knowing that he's failed. And that, you can't underestimate what mark that would leave on somebody. Now, we were told, a few weeks ago, and they were even talking December that, coaching staff were thinking that this was going to be his last season, come relegation or survival, because he'd want to move on, etc. So it makes a mockery of that 5-year plan and things like that. But I'm a bit like Liam. I want to get annoyed. And you know me, I do get annoyed at times. But I just can't. I'm in denial. I think that's the thing, innit? I'm just need therapy.
I mean, the thing is, like we said, right in one of our very early podcasts, and we were talking about the whole ALK project and everything else, and we said, we don't know what's going to happen. It could go all kinds of weird directions. Anything could happen now, because we're not in that situation where things were very predictable for a long time with the previous ownership and everything. We're in a situation where we don't know what, and we were like, how do you cope with it and all that kind of stuff. And to a certain degree, I know we try to take a critical stance and stuff, but I think we said to a certain degree, it's a roller coaster ride, isn't it? And you've got to just go with it to some extent. But we also said that this summer was going to be complete anarchy, but I don't think we expected how much anarchy was. We were just thinking about players, really, weren't we? Woody, have you reached this inner peace that Greavesy seems to have found with this zen moment about Kompany?
I haven't drunk quite as much as him, so no, not quite yet. I think I'm in that stage of fuck him, and I haven't got time to worry about our Vincent at the minute. It's like bollocks to him. You've done your thing. I wouldn't mind putting a fiver on as going up in the Championship with 101 points, then coming down as worst season, and then Vincent off to Bayern. That would have been quite a return, wouldn't it? Because it is ridiculous when you step back and suddenly see everything that's been going on these past few days. You could argue that this is the most coverage that Burnley's ever seen in its history, arguably, in what we've seen anyway. It's ridiculous, the number of people who are talking about it. There are Liverpool fans going bonkers about it, and it's literally all over the world. People just can't quite get their heads around it. And, I hope he has a shit house. I hope he gets found out. I hope the things that we've been saying come to fruition, and he gets, potted by Christmas and he turns into Owen Coyle Mark II or Frank Lampard. Bollocks to him. But
so I'm going with you. Haven't quite reached that zen moment yet.
I don't think I have I? I should probably let it go. But if you think about it now as this project for somebody else, what a bloody great club it is to come into. You can come in. I genuinely now wish Alan and the board all the best and all the will in the world to find the right appointment, because the right appointment now, and we're on to bigger and better things. We aren't in the worst situation in the world, and it could be it's a great job for somebody right now, and I think we could see some fabulous times.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I went out for a walk this morning, and I was thinking the same sort of thing. I put out a tweet yesterday. And just to Woody's point about how big this story has been globally, I mean, I was getting shit off people in Africa. People were coming at me and saying, like, I want to drink those Burnley tears and all this weird African stuff going on there. It was like, but, and people making a lot of points. And it's a global story. It's a massive, I think, apart from maybe the Europa League final yesterday, it was the biggest story in world football yesterday. Definitely. So yeah, Alan Pace and the ALK boys will be looking at them engagement numbers, and they'll be very excited about it. But I did reach a similar sort of place to Woody in the sense that I just thought, you know what, the next person who comes in, they're not all rubbish who is signed. You can get a good squad of 16, 18 out of that 40-odd players we've got. And if someone can come in and sort the wheat from the chaff and get that team going in the Championship, there's no reason why they couldn't do what Kompany did. But, so there is a silver lining there, because I wasn't 100% convinced that after what he went through last year, Kompany was going to be able to do that. But Justin, how have you sort of processed things? What's your thoughts at the moment?
I think I'm a little bit sad still. I hate it when somebody starts something but doesn't finish it, and I think with the best will in the world, Kompany is probably only about halfway through the process, the project that we're talking about, and I would have loved to have seen him, see it through. I'm a bit like Woody in the sense that I don't care what happens to him next. If he does leave us and go and manage another club, but I've always been one of these characters who wishes the worst for people who leave Burnley. I want them to lose every game. I don't want them to get injured or anything like players. I want them to lose because I like everybody else on this podcast, I can't imagine if I was a professional footballer or a football manager, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than Burnley. So I find it very difficult to understand the logic behind this. Everyone's saying, "Oh, but it's Bayern Munich." Yeah, but he's the manager of Burnley. Is there a better job than that? Anywhere in the world? I don't think so. I was really looking forward to seeing how he reacted to this, situation. And I would have loved to have seen him take this group of players that is assembled. We've all said over the last sort of couple of months, he's onto something. We've got that team is coming together, and I think it's a real shame that we won't see. It seems like we won't see that come to fruition. But again, I'm completely behind what Woody says. Where this is a great job for somebody. We've got a great platform there. It won't be Vincent Kompany that sees it through, probably. But I think as Liam said, any other manager that isn't Vincent Kompany would have been potted long before this point. He's quite lucky that he was still in the job. And we're quite lucky that we don't have to pay him any compensation. In fact, they're going to have to pay us to take him off our hands, which I think at the end of the day, we might in the future see as a bit of a result, actually. Because
there is a silver lining here then.
Absolutely. I do think that we need every penny we can get, don't we? So, that we don't have to pay him off. What would have happened if, 10 games into a championship season, we were mid-table and they were starting to think, he's got that 5-year contract. He won't be on small beans cash-wise, will he? So, you've got to look for the silver lining in situations like this. Burnley Football Club is, to me, the best football club in the world. And if you don't want to manage them, then, go off and do something else. But if we can arrive at a better situation because he's made that decision and we don't have to spend any money on it, and we get some money in as a result of him leaving, then, a lot of people would say that's a result, wouldn't they?
Yeah, Chris, one of the things that I am troubled by is this sense that whole squad, he's gone out and bought players and invested huge amounts of borrowed money or whatever money it is that goes into the club for these kind of deals in players, young, promising players, to build a team, and then he's walked away from it. And you wonder what those young players think about that, because I'm pretty sure, and we've heard lots of people say that Vincent Kompany was the best attraction for those players. We heard almost every introduction video. I came here because a manager called me up, and as soon as he said that, they've now been, he's now walked out the door. Has he even had a conversation with them? We don't know that. They've gone, they're left there. Their wages are left with us. The contracts, they're all on long 4-year deals or whatever. I mean, you could say, and there was a feeling I had certainly, that there's a degree of sort of deceit when this happens, isn't there? I think. I mean, do you look at it purely that this is a guy who's been offered a better job, he's taken it, fair enough, and he want to do the same? Or is there a little bit of something else there as well?
It all depends on what he sort of said to the players in these negotiations. Really, I'm here for the long haul, X, Y, Z. But I can also remember this when the speculation came up about Owen Coyle immediately after the playoff final win, and I was down in the mix zone trying to get hold. I think I spoke to every player in the squad that day, even players who didn't play. But while Owen was upstairs in the media theatre and all the Celtic stuff was kicking off, so it was. But he would always sort of say that promising young lads like J Rod and at the time Alex MacDonald, Eagles, Patterson. Remember him sort of saying we don't want them to just sort of up and move sticks at the drop of a hat sort of thing. We want them to be part of a project and not take the first offer that came. And I said to him, well, when he went to Bolton, I said, you've taken the first offer that came, haven't you? He said, well, no, because I could have gone to Celtic. And I said, well, back at the time you denied that. It's like, which way up is it, sort of thing. But they all have their own truth and the way of looking at things. But I see looking at that, there's that article in the Guardian that Woody posted earlier, and he was talking about after promotion and looking ahead to the Premier League season and talking
Kompany,
about.
This is you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, and then he's talking about players from the Championship going on and kicking on in the Premier League, like Grealish, Kyle Walker, who obviously played in that playoff final, and guys like Zarori and Al Dakil. And Zarori was basically dismissed, wasn't he? He's left out the first game. He's really harshly dealt a red card. When the game's over, and all of us, and we never see of him ever again. Basically, Al Dakil, who basically ended the season as the one of the first choice centre halves, gets moved round. You can play left wing back, left back, right back, anywhere other than centre back, and then he gets discarded, and you're like, well, it's just all I don't know. The one thing to me, if he does move on, and we're aware that a lot of players have obviously signed for a company for the big name, but how many noses has he put out of joint? We might well get a revived Manuel Benson, a revived Zarori. Muric has finished the season, but I bet there's still a lingering. Why on earth did you leave me out for 28 games for a goalkeeper that I am head and shoulders better than in every aspect of the goalkeeping game? Then you've Twine's not had a kick, McNally's not had a kick, Egan Riley's not had a kick, and people like that. Obafemi's not had a kick. Ekdal's been shunted out. Just comes in when there's an injury or suspension, plays well, and then he's out again. So. Yeah.
And the next man, whoever comes in, Chris, he's going to have to make decisions about these players who stays and goes, having never featured them in his team. He's coming in, he's going to be working off videos, isn't he? I mean, Liam, do you feel like somebody said to me the other day when it happened, they said, it's just a reminder, these people aren't fans, they don't care about your club, this is a job to them, this is a career to them. Vincent Kompany, it's part of the job that they wear the colours and all the rest of it and talk about community and club and all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, they're just in it for themselves and their money and their career. Do you feel like that's the case? And does it shatter a little bit the feeling of being a fan when these things happen?
Look, you don't want to. That's a big question because you don't want to feel that way because you still want to have a sort of, emotional, poetic way of seeing football, and sadly with money it talks. And I saw on my phone just earlier of a great example of this, that Kieran McKenna is very likely of leaving Ipswich Town this summer. Manchester United are, according to Sky Sports, are in talks with his representatives. I mean, that's all a bit baffling, isn't it? And unfortunately, that is just a stark reminder of the sport that we are now in. The idea of local community clubs rising for the leagues and, going head to head with the big boys and knocking some down. I mean, it's fading away each year. I mean, this campaign, we only got 2 draws against top 6 or traditional top 6 sides, and our only highest place win was against Fulham, who I believe was 13th or 14th. Like this entire campaign, we couldn't even lay a glove compared to most of these sides, and each year it's going to get worse and worse. So it's just the feeling that money has completely took over the game, unfortunately, and like Vincent Kompany, I believe that his heart's in the right place, but I simply cannot ignore that this is Bayern Munich here. And it sounds really stupid, but they're the top 4, top 5 biggest clubs in the world. Absolutely. Now and historically. And from my own personal perspective, I think that is a daft move from him. I think it's simply too soon. We saw what happened with Graham Potter when he went to Chelsea. He took the move too big and got laughed at the club. That could very well and easily happen with Vincent Kompany because look, he made a lot of silly mistakes this campaign. Many mistakes that we all saw and we hope that he saw too and would learn from. I mean, I think we had 4 different left backs to start of the year. Started with Vitinho as left back, and then Delcroix left back against Villa, Roberts left back against Spurs, and then finally put Taylor as a left back against Forest away. So he had no idea who was even going to start there until eventually he decided, let's play our actual left back at left back. Surprisingly, he's our best left back. So, and many questions as well. I mean, we started the campaign with, of course, this baffling formation, trying to go head to head against City and Villa and Spurs and completely killed ourselves off. Still acting like we are. If anything, we played more attacking and more risky in our press in the Premier League than what we ever did in the Championship. And
yeah, you're right.
It's a little bit baffling. And by the way, all the decisions that was made that we all thought, oh, that's a good decision, that was all forced on him. When we always begging Trafford to go and have Cullen back in, thinking let's see him about, it all happened because Trafford had a massive cock up at Palace away and Brownhill got sent off. That was all forced on him. When Cullen Berg first started the campaign, we thought maybe Brownhill, let's see what he can do. He didn't make that call until Cullen got injured himself. And then we started Brownhill and Berg and thought, oh, that kind of works now. That wasn't his decision. That was just forced upon him. It just fell in his lap. So again, Kompany has got some good ideas. And I'm sure that he would do a decent job at Bayern Munich. Maybe. Because I think he's still got a long way to go. And I think he can learn from them. But it's a very cutthroat business. And he's at the biggest club in Germany. If he doesn't kick on and get a decent result in Champions League and it's looking like he's going to go win a title, he'd be cut off and he'll be left with nothing. So I wish him well because I think he's a great bloke and I thank him for what he's done for our club. But at the end of the day, I think it's a massive, massive move off him and a big chance of it going sideways. So that's my thoughts about it.
Woody, you've looked a bit at Bayern Munich. I mean, he was from what we've read, he was the 7th choice for Bayern Munich after they went through a long list of potential candidates. They're a club that look far from stable in terms of the way they're organising. I mean, if your hope is it all goes pear-shaped for him, your sort of schadenfreude, to use the appropriate language, is there, then it looks like there might be a fair chance that you get your wish come true.
Yeah, I mean, there are the right jobs at the wrong times. And if you look at what's going on at Bayern and you just read in between the lines a little bit, then it's not necessarily the Bayern that everybody's been seeing, that's dominated the Bundesliga. It's on a little bit of a turn. It's in a little bit of a transitional period. Now, it may be an ideal, option for that, but there's something wrong there. And when you're 7th choice and everybody's turned you down. Some big names, some who weren't even working, and they've all told you to fuck off. Then you've got to ask somewhere, is this the right time? And we'll find out at some point, but it will be quite interesting. And just to like fall back a little bit on what people are saying, as we are as a club, I think we're a little bit naive at times, and we don't always appreciate, because it's difficult to understand that you're a stepping stone, that we might not always be a final destination. It's only if you truly, love Burnley does it become a final destination. Everybody else, it's a stepping stone. The likes of your Trippiers, your Nick Popes, everybody, even the greatest servants, move on at some point. And so I think it's difficult to try and match, just in saying, that love of a club with somebody who just sees it as an option, as a CV elaborator, as you will. But that's pretty much that.
Yeah, I mean, let's not worry too much about Kompany's sort of career progression. I mean, in terms of where the club goes to from here, I mean, we're in this now. Who's next? We're into that discussion, really. There's no getting around it. I mean, there was a huge outcry a couple of weeks ago when Sasha Tavolieri tweeted that Pace was actually doing some contingency planning in case Kompany was to leave. Now, that was in the context of Brighton and so on, which obviously has been blown out of the water by Bayern Munich. But if they have been doing some contingency work, it's gone into massive overdrive now, hasn't it? I mean, I'm sure that Alan Pace's desk has been, his in tray, as they like to say in these situations, has been filling up very quickly with applications. But you just look at the next manager odds, and already there's 20 names being linked there. We can expect days and days of speculation coming along. Greavesy, what kind of manager do you think Pace will be looking for in terms of the profile, and what one do you think he should be going for, rather than specific names? I mean, you could throw in some if you want, but what kind of, are we looking young, progressive? Are we looking like safe pair of hands? What do you think is going through Pace's mind on that front?
I think one of the things we've discussed, and we've said it a few times, we've said I wouldn't trust ALK to make the right decision when we were talking about bringing a director of football. I think it's fair. I think it's only fair now that we do take a step back and say, actually, by hook or by crook, Alan Pace arrived at the destination of Vincent Kompany. He was, big enough to admit that he didn't have a clue who Vincent Kompany was when he was introduced to him, or somebody suggested to him, and he was blown away by Kompany's vision. So I think, I'm not saying that criticism that I've levelled at ALK and Alan Pace is unfair, but what I think it does prove is that he probably has a fairly set idea in his mind. If you remember Mission to Burnley 1, and let's not forget, we discussed this, I think, at the end of the podcast midweek, Mission to Burnley 2 is going to be absolute blockbuster, isn't it? Let's be honest, if the cameras are still rolling at least. So I think he probably has a fairly good idea of his vision. We think one of the other names in the frame was Chris Wilder, and he was heard saying that person who wasn't named is too much like Sean. So I don't think we're going to go back to a Sean Dyche, sorry, Chris, type manager, or even Dyche, should Dyche leave. Good. So I think it's a golden opportunity. I think there's some brilliant names out there, and I will come on to names. And the one you've thrown in today, Simon, which I will let you reveal, I am blown away by this guy, because I don't bother. I put MLS up with the Scottish leagues. I don't bother with it. It's a load of nonsense to me. But the guy you've suggested, which we'll come on to, so I think he goes for somebody progressive, and I think he goes for somebody who shares a similar philosophy for the project. And we take the piss out of the word the project, but I think I'm now wondering whether the project was a Vincent Kompany project, or whether the project was the ALK project, and maybe Vincent was part of the ALK project, but he didn't realise. You know, imagine being Burnley and getting 16 to 20 million euros for a manager. You know, so is the
he's a genius. He's a genius.
You can totally imagine Pace telling potential investors now, and telling future managers, come to Burnley. Bayern Munich recruit from us. Bayern recruit from us.
You said it in the WhatsApp group. Teller, Maatsen, now playing in European finals, or I've played in European finals, Bundesliga winner. So we've got a club that develops players. So I don't see us going back to that kind of, you know, Moyes has been mentioned. I like Moyes. I think Moyes is a brilliant manager. I think he got a lot of stick. I think he'd have done all right at Man United if he was almost like the night watchman at Man United. Probably needed somebody. But he's not the man for this job. I 100% agree. So then you're looking at that progressive. You're looking at that manager who is cut from a slightly weirder cloth. And I'm going to say weirder cloth because I think my choice, or one of my choices, Will Still. I know a few people aren't keen. He's cut from that weirder cloth in terms of never having played professional football. Your man in Montreal, well, who was at Montreal and now at Columbus Crew, he's again cut from a slightly different cloth in terms of not having a huge background. My other big choice, David Ancelotti, again cut from a weird cloth because he's not ever been a professional footballer. So I think Pace, for the kind of, he's not a football man and he's not from a background of football, you know, notwithstanding his Real Salt Lake tenure a few years ago, a decade or so, 2 decades ago. I'm wondering now, and this is, everyone's going to accuse me of doing an about turn on Pace, and I'm still, you know, I'm separating the criticism for the takeover from the opportunity that's now in his hands. Maybe the fact that he's an outsider to football either gives us a really, really kind of left field progressive option, or it gives us Ted Lasso. And I'm not sure which it gives us. But forever forward, believe, twatting about.
I'm not having any mocking of Alan Pace on this podcast this week. I actually feel a bit sorry for Alan Pace.
I 100% do. But I'm also saying,
seriously, I don't think what all the criticisms we've made of Alan Pace on here, he backed Vincent Kompany all the way, as far as we know. He got everything that he wanted. And there might have been a player he wanted for 30 million that he didn't go for. Who knows? But he invested, you know, the magic 100 million figure, the whatever the number has been that he spent on transfers for Vincent Kompany. He spent it, and then the manager's gone away. He's now left to pick up the pieces and deal with it. He did not think it was going to be a 2-year project. There's no way he thought it was going to be this short.
But he's back. On the backing thing, let's not forget, he sanctioned a £36 million move for Ian Maatsen on transfer deadline day. Yeah. If we're to believe the figures that were being bandied about by Sky.
No, I think that would right.
So 100% he's backed in. But I do think that his outsider status within football, which we often, you know, take the piss out of because of some of the madcap ideas, actually perhaps gives him a different view on who should be next in line to manage this football club. And again, you know, criticize me all you want, but I will still continue to criticize ALK where I feel it's needed. That could be a real strength because this is the hottest job in football. I don't care what you think about the Chelsea job or the Brighton job. This ultimately is the job where you can make the biggest impact. You know, you go to Chelsea, McKenna goes to Chelsea, he's out by January. Simple as that.
Justy, what kind of manager would you be looking for? Are you into this sort of next gen, young, unknown, progressive, going to be a superstar maybe?
I don't know. That sounds awful to me. I don't know. I mean, as I said the other day, it's got to be somebody who's going to pick up the project, hasn't it? It's got to be somebody who's going to play with a development squad for the first season. I mean, I know we've watched them last season, and we know that there's enormous potential there, and there's an enormous opportunity for somebody who maybe isn't on the radar of Premier League clubs to come into Burnley and become a Premier League manager within 12 months. I think that's the big sell, isn't it? And also, as Andrew sort of alludes to, the fact that Kompany has had the 100% backing of Alan Pace. You know, not just in terms of how much money that he's sanctioned to be spent on players that Kompany wanted to bring in, but also the fact that we finished second from bottom with like the worst performance from a Burnley team in our entire history, and he didn't fire him. That must be something that an incoming sort of potential manager would look at and say, well, that's the place to go. And the fact that, as Andrew again alludes to, the fact that Pace has not necessarily got a massive football background, and like he's done with Kompany, sort of is probably going to be prepared to hand over the football operation to somebody who can mould the team, the squad, even the club in their own image. I think it's a massive draw. I do think that if someone like David Moyes is on the market, he's without a club and he's said that he wants to get back into the game. I know you say this is not a job for him. I don't know. I think that could work. I think Moyes could work because I think, the apple cart has already been upset. All the cards are on the table. It might be that somebody like Moyes, who knows what they're doing, has got massive experience, can come in,
put the jigsaw pieces together.
Put the jigsaw pieces together, exactly. After the sort of chaos of the last, you have to describe it as chaos the last 2 seasons, because it's been up and down and all over the place, and it's ended, or it looks like it's going to end in chaos. Taking the pieces that Vincent Kompany has put in the hands of somebody who's got a massive experience, and don't forget, has won things, like he's a winner. He's not, untried, untested. Taking these pieces of the jigsaw, like you said, putting them back together, I don't know, that seems quite attractive to me. I would expect David Moyes to be holding out for a Premier League job, but he might. He's not.
He's not in the current mood in football.
And he's not, he's not.
Brighton going to go to David Moyes or not, are they?
No, but he's 61, is he? Something like that. Got a lot of miles in the tank. Yeah, he's got, maybe he fancies it. Maybe the control he would have is something that would attract him. So yeah, I'm not ruling that out entirely. I have to say, I think that could be quite a good fit. Somebody who has got that experience and has got that, and is a proven winner. That could be just what we need right now.
Right. So we've had the 2 arguments there for the next gen type that Greavesy fancies, and maybe the more sort of experienced, put the jigsaw piece together man that Justin's gone for. Let's finish this off by getting down to names then. Let's start off. Chris Bowden, you've seen the list and all the odds and everything. Who you picking up the phone to first? Let's put it that way.
Well. Let me read this to you. We want to play with purpose, dominate possession, play forward, and we can get the ball back as quick as we can. We also want to play with good organisation and structure. Steve Cooper. So if you wanted something, he's worked with young players, success at the England youth set up. He's worked with like Swansea is sort of like if you're looking at over the last 15, 20 years or something, if you're looking at a club who's had the sort of Barcelona way as such, that was in their DNA, was it? You look at the Martinez, Laudrup, and people like that, Brendan Rodgers, who they wanted to play, possession football, and he decent success there. Obviously, got Forest promoted that nobody had managed for 25 years, kept him in the league despite being owned by an absolute madman who insisted on signing 40 odd players and just foisting these unknowns upon him. So he's worked with players that he hasn't necessarily selected as well before, and created a cohesive unit out of them while developing. He's brought Hudson-Odoi back to life. We all knew there was a player there, and to me, he ticks all the boxes. Looks like a thoroughly decent man as well. And if I'm Alan Pace, he's my first phone call.
Excellent. Good. Really, really well sold case there for Steve Cooper, who is the bookmakers' favourites as we record this. Liam, who are you picking up the phone to first?
I'm going for a manager which is already at a club that's not been mentioned so far, and that could be the reason why, because it may be a hard person to get out of. But we have got quite a lot of money, and I think it is quite realistic. And my choice would be Carlos Corberán. I think he's a fantastic manager, done a fantastic job at Huddersfield Town and also at West Brom. And I think if we're looking for a type of manager that also plays at the back but can also vary it in many other ways, is good at set pieces for one, which I would like to see again. I think he's potentially the perfect manager that I would go for. I guess the only concern is the fact that he's in a job right now, and West Brom will fight tooth and nail to keep him. Steve Cooper is a great shout as well. Probably the best option that we have of a manager that is currently free. That's a free agent right now and on the market. So if I was to pick a manager that I think would be the best option for Burnley, that would take the step up and can get us promoted and do the job in the Premier League, for me, it's most definitely Carlos Corberán. And also, he's got a great chant as well. So I think that'll go down well in the Cricketfield end. So it'd be my choice.
Excellent. Woody?
Best song, obviously, Danny Roll. But besides that, I would go with Wilfred Nancy, which I know is your choice as well, Simon. Columbus Crew guy. Plays some exquisitely progressive football within the MLS. I think would fit in within the Championship extremely well. There's one thing that's kind of worrying me a little bit with Alan and the board is if they feel chastened by this experience, have they had the fingers burnt, and do they, sign somebody who's a reaction to Vincent? I hope they're still as open-minded about what it is that they want to do, and they don't get into like a bit of an Owen Coyle, Brian Law's mindset like we did previously. That's my only cautionary word.
So I agree with Woody that there is a danger of swinging too far the other way and just looking for a safe pair of hands and somebody who's not a threat to them, who's not going to run off to another club very quickly. But yeah, just on Wilfred Nancy, as Greavesy and Woody have both mentioned him, and we've been talking about him, the fact is he's just plays this fantastic football at Columbus Crew, who won MLS. I know people will say that's not a big deal, but, he had a very good season in MLS, and then in continental competition has smashed some Mexican teams, which American MLS teams have not really managed to do. He's got to the final, but plays brilliant football, brilliant backstory as well. He's French, and he went to Montreal. He actually just basically backpacked to Canada and started coaching in a high school in Canada and got onto Montreal's MLS team's academy, came through there, got the job on a temporary basis, and it's just been wow ever since, really. He basically, is quite a similar character in a lot of ways to Vincent Kompany. And his way of playing football is very attractive and would suit Burnley really well. So I would think he's somebody they should have a look at. But he would be a left field choice, let's be honest. They are going more likely to be looking for the kind of names that we've mentioned already. Greavesy, you haven't actually, I didn't let you sort of go down the path of naming a name, did I really? But are you sticking with your man in France?
Yeah, Will still. I mean, he's just left Stade Reims. I'm not pronouncing it the French way, but everyone will know what Stade Reims is. So, I think he's an interesting character because he's like I say, he's got that unorthodox background, a little bit like your man in Columbus. So, and just taking on that kind of weird analogy that was worse than my kind of Panama Jaws analogy the other night. I don't think Pace will switch. I think Pace. I think when we talk about the project, I think the only person who believes in the project being the right way forward more than perhaps we believed Vincent to do it is Alan Pace. So I think he's on this project path now, which is why I don't think it will be Moise, but it could be. It could be your man in Columbus, Wilfred Nancy. as a left field option, it could be Carlos Corberán. I agree with Liam. I think he's an interesting guy. I think he's got an interesting way about him. Certainly not against Steve Cooper. I think Cooper's a brilliant coach, brilliant manager. But for me, Will still. But I think that's almost the opportunity to get a Vincent-esque character in, but not force upon him an experienced number 2, which is what we'd cried out for with Vincent, but perhaps an opportunity to introduce that more experienced Ed. We're obviously going to be slightly biased because he used to play for Burnley and he's a friend of the podcast, Mark Phelan. But my other one is Steve Round, which I think I mentioned in our WhatsApp group. I didn't realise that Steve Round had left Arsenal, apparently after a row over Ramsdale versus David Raya. But he's your ultimate experienced number 2 who could guide someone like Will Still to really great things. Will Still, again, another multilingual coach, a coach who's going to be able to kind of galvanise different nationalities across the training ground.
It's a big factor that in that locker room, isn't it? It's a big factor. Big time, yeah.
Mm.
Well,
I think
what? Go on.
I think one thing we have to remember is we are living in a world where Burnley's manager has finished 19th in the Premier League and got us relegated and is now on the brink of joining one of the biggest football clubs in the world. Anything can happen. Quite literally.
Football's going to be mad, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It has.
It's Martinez times 10, isn't it? We're looking at, he won the cup with Wigan, got relegated and ended up at Everton, which was a fantastic result for him, old Roberto. And this is just, it's mind-boggling, isn't it? But I do think, I mean, he's German-speaking, isn't it? Obviously, he would obviously time at Hamburg, working with elite players. I can see the appeal, but I mean, Bayern, you look through their recent history and it's all, Ray Hagel, Magath, Beckenbauer, Trapattoni, old heads, Ancelotti, Guardiola, Klinsmann. They're all sort of like, apart from Guardiola, obviously, sort of like, very, steady-headed, experienced heads who know the game inside out, Europe and abroad. A lot of them have coached at international level, but it would be
that's where most of the names on their shortlist they tried to get.
When it all pans out each season, they're one of maybe sort of 4 or 5 teams that you might expect to win the Champions League. That's the level we're at, and they're thinking about hiring a coach who, he's not covered himself in glory.
But you think you replace Odebert with Sane and replace Brun Larsen with Musiala and Foster with Kane and so on and so forth, and what his principles might just be exactly what they need.
I mean, there's always been that argument. Oh, what would Pep Guardiola do if he were in charge of Bristol City? Well, we'll now see the opposite of that. What would a manager who's done really badly in the Premier League do with a team full of top European players? He'll probably do quite well. Let's see. But honestly, after going through those list of possibilities, I'm not that bothered about what happens to Vincent Kompany at Bayern Munich. I'm not going to be one of these. I don't think Burnley fans are going to do like they did with Owen Coyle, where people were turning up at Bolton away games with Judas signs held up behind the dugout. I don't think that's going to happen. That sort of Sicilian thing that's inside us a little bit, that sort of vengeance, Judas, traitor, and all that kind. I think we're just going to move on because I think
I might do that.
Okay, Justin's going to hunt him down. Kevin Costa's but you start talking about these names like we have done, and I think there's a lot of silver linings here. Actually, I don't want to be happy clappy about it, but I think there still could be some very bright days ahead. Before we finish off, we've got loads to talk about this summer now, aren't we? We were worried about what we're going to talk about on this podcast this summer. There's going to be about 25 transfers and about 15 people linked with management job. But before we do go, Liam, you've got to tell us about this trip. You're off over to see JJ Watt and the rest at the seven-a-side soccer tournament. Tell us a bit about
that. It's all a bit crazy, I'll be honest. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for the club over in America to kind of just almost take us away from the campaign we just had a little bit and something to look forward to. From a personal level, it's a very proud day for me and my family. I'm kind of surprised they want me, really. There's some really good players and good blokes that has been called up as well. So like Marvin Sordell, Marvin Bartley, Chris Seagulls, and quite a few academy boys as well. So yeah, it's all a bit mind breaking for me, really. I can provide some energy. I did my 7 marathons in a row about 2 months ago, so that's what I can offer. But I play for a Polish team week in, week out. It's not exactly the Premier League by any means. So let's see how many minutes I get. But it's I'm very grateful with it, and JJ's been really nice with me as well. That he's the one that reached out to get me involved in the first place. So I thank him for that massively.
Yeah, nice one. Legs, heart, mind. That's what we need, Liam. Legs, heart, mind.
I could offer legs, but not many minds. I gotta make sure that I stay realistic here.
Brilliant. Well, I'm sure it'll be great fun. Me and Woody will try and get there if we can, and have an enjoyable couple of days if we can get to North Carolina. It's in, isn't it?
Absolutely. But just to kind of echo how you ended off earlier, I do believe that Burnley is in a very good place. And I saw a few comments online with, thanks for nothing, Kompany. You left us in the same place, that we've gone down. We need a rebuild and we're back to almost square one again, like Sean Dyche all over again. It's not the same situation at all. If you look back to what happened 2 years ago, it's a completely different situation. We're much better off for it. So I thank him for that. But we're a very attractive club. We are possibly the most attractive club for any team in the Championship. And for any manager to go and take us, I think we got a lot of suitors. So it's exciting, right? And I think that's the best way to look at it, that for any manager that wants to take us on, 2 title wins in a row and also a second place finish as well, we are a Goliath in the Championship compared to a lot of teams that are terrified of the fact we're back in it. And because that's how it's kind of gone in the last couple of years we've been down there. And Blackburn fans, for one, will absolutely know that. Don't forget 2 doubles in a row and won the title 2 times in a row as well. So I'm looking forward to facing them again.
Brilliant. I think I feel good now. All right. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining us on this podcast. We'll be back again next week because you can be sure there's going to be news. Who knows what's going to happen? I really hope we're not back doing one about how Vincent Kompany's transfer to Bayern Munich fell through and he's now coming back to Turf Moor. We've got to go through it all again. But I think we'll be more likely to be discussing whether it's going to be Steve Cooper, Carlos Corberan, or any of these other names that have been mentioned who are heading to Turf Moor. Exciting and interesting times ahead. Thanks for listening to the podcast. All the best, and up the Clarets.
Jimmy McElroy to Watson. Go.